Hello to Azure Stack HCI Tech Talk. Last week there was the Ignite, and hopefully you enjoyed all the announcements about Azure Stack HCI, Windows Server vNext, and I heard a lot of feedback from the field that people said, well, Windows Server next generation will be so powerful, a lot of features. We thought initially that they only will be part of Azure Stack HCI, now become part of the next version of Windows Server. What is the benefit of Azure Stack HCI and so on? And today I have a special guest in the show. It's Kenny Lowe from Dell. Hi, Kenny. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, thanks. Fresh back from Ignite and terribly jet lagged, but really happy to be here.
Perfect. And today we will talk about the Dell APEX Cloud Platform for Azure. Kenny will explain what it is. So some weeks ago, we announced Microsoft together with Dell that there's a new category of Azure Stack HCI, the Premier solution, and Dell is the first and only OEM so far offering this kind of new category, and we will talk about what this category really is. And Kenny will explain what the benefit of Azure Stack HCI is and will be. It's not about single features, it's about something different. So stay with us. And if you have some questions, so we invite you to raise the questions, and I will interrupt Kenny if possible so we can answer them. And if you don't have questions, then relax, enjoy your coffee or whatever you prefer, and listen to Kenny and his presentation. So Kenny, over to you.
Awesome. So much to share, and it's exciting times in the Azure Stack HCI and wider Microsoft hybrid world. I guess a little bit about myself first. I lead multi-cloud technical evangelism at Dell Technologies. I lead a team of really awesome people who are here to evangelize and educate on the Dell multi-cloud portfolio, including our Azure Stack offerings, Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack HCI. For the last 7 years, I've also been a Microsoft MVP specializing in Azure hybrid solutions. And this year, for the first time, I was awarded Microsoft Regional Director status as well. So Regional Director, strategically broad and ecosystem agnostic, MVP, technically deep in a specific Microsoft technology area. So that's sort of T-shape. They're broad and deep at the same time as well. And I guess my journey in this space really started almost a decade ago. And at this point, probably more than a decade ago, actually, back when Windows Server 2012 R2 was released and I first deployed storage spaces. And I guess at that point, my eyes were opened to a whole host of new software-defined opportunities then. I did a whole bunch of work in the Windows Server 2016 vNext technical adoption program. I was especially giving feedback around shielded VMs and the software-defined networking stack at that point, and I implemented the world's first production instance of a shielded VM guarded fabric with software-defined networking at that time at the GA of Windows Server 2016, which was a terrible idea, but it was an awful lot of really good knowledge and feedback there, and that's where I got my original MVP award at the time as well. So I have a deep love and history of Windows Server-based HCI solutions there, and I think that's important context as we go into how we've got to where we are now and why Azure Stack HCI even exists. Why is it a thing in the first place? All make sense?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. And yeah, absolutely. Break in anytime, ask questions, ask for clarification. If you don't stop me, I'm just going to open my mouth and keep talking for hours and hours and hours because this stuff really excites me. So do interrupt, do ask questions. Those in the audience, ask anything you want, hard as you want. I'm here to answer all your questions here. So I'm going to start off with actually just an overview slide. I'd call it an architecture slide, but it's a bit more high level than that. But this is one that I really like to use because it sort of shows what the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem is designed to deliver and to give here. I see this slide used all the time now, by the way, and credit where credit's due. It was created by Matt McSpirit, so great job, Matt. I use this all the time. I know lots of others do as well. But down at the bottom here are the two pieces that, from a Dell perspective, we're trying to make as easy as possible for customers. It's the hardware, the physical infrastructure, and it's the software-defined infrastructure here. So Hyper-V storage spaces direct, optionally software-defined networking, hopefully not so optional in the future. All these pieces here, we want to make as easy as possible to deploy, operate, manage, lifecycle, and ultimately retire, so you can focus on what actually matters. And what matters is the workloads running on top. And those could be traditional virtualized applications running in Windows VMs or Linux VMs. Now at Ignite, we have the announcement of the general availability of Azure Virtual Desktop, so running in VMs as well. AVD within Azure Stack HCI, also something people are incredibly excited about. But it's also there to extend Azure on-premises. So bringing AKS capabilities on-prem with AKS Hybrid here to run customers' own containerized applications, great. But then also using Azure Arc to start to drag other Azure services back on premises. Azure Arc enabled machine learning, Azure Arc enabled data services, Postgres Hyperscale, SQL managed instances, things like that. Azure App Service through Azure Arc enabled App Service, which delivers things like functions and logic apps and event grid and the app service itself and all those wonderful things as well. And then not just pulling Azure on premises through these services, but also bringing Azure services running in Azure to bear to extend the value of that platform there as well through things like Monitor, Policy, Insights Defender, and update management there. And this holistic hybrid ecosystem here is what we're trying to build from an Azure Stack HCI perspective, and where we want people's focus, time, and energies to be is really everything above the software-defined infrastructure layer. We want all of our customers tend to be on that, not on what's at the bottom of the stack there. So all of our time, focus, and energy is on making these two bits easy, not interfering with the stuff on top, making these two bits easy so you can focus on everything up there.
I see an important difference to the slide I've seen in the past. So on the right side, Azure Arc is including the hardware. Was not true in the past. So I think this is something that changed with your Apex Cloud Platform.
I think that Azure, so one of the values or one of the core values of Azure Stack HCI is it's always extended Azure Arc down into the hardware layer. It's definitely true that the integrations of Arc extend and get better with the Apex Cloud Platform and Premier Solutions over time as well. But the reason we include this Azure Arc piece here on the right-hand side and extend it down into the infrastructure is because Azure Arc is not just for Azure Stack HCI. Azure Arc is for any platform. If I was to draw this architecture out for a VMware environment, for example, Azure Arc's value would extend down to the workload layer only. So it's able to bring value to the workload layer, including deployment of those through Arc-enabled vSphere, for example, deploying VMs there. But the overall infrastructure management, how you lifecycle that, how you deploy that, how you feed and water, take care of it, fleet manage it, all of that is a VMware piece still. So there's a split story there. Azure Stack HCI makes that one unified platform, and that's unified from a management perspective, licensing, support, services, as we see here. So it's really giving one way of doing things, managing, supporting on-prem and in the cloud, and that story continues to evolve. I think that's one of the key values of Azure Stack HCI when we're looking at Azure Arc specifically, because I get a lot of people saying, well, if Azure Arc does this across anything, why do I need Azure Stack HCI? This is why, because it makes it one platform, one way of doing things. Cool. It's also important when we look forward to start by looking back and seeing where we came from and why we are where we are and how we got there as well. And this Azure hybrid journey is not something that's new. I said that my journey here started almost a decade ago. Dell's journey here started in, well, actually 2014 with the development of the Cloud Platform System standard and Dell Hybrid Cloud system there. So CPS and DHCS were Dell and Microsoft's first foray into hybrid solutions there. And every year since then, we have evolved, iterated, improved, and enhanced the value to customers there, not just for the sake of it, but because we look at where challenges are and we build around those challenges and we solve for those. So in 2017, we launched our Windows Server software-defined reference architectures. This was a Windows Server 2016-based solution, really designed to give a framework and scaffold around how to deploy storage spaces direct, to give some guidance on how to do that. But it was a reference architecture program there. It wasn't a fully baked product. It was very much, here's some guidance on how to deploy storage spaces direct. Go forth and do that. That was the point of the WSSD program there. that evolved into what was called at the time the Azure Stack HCI program there. It was still a Windows Server-based program, but the Azure Stack HCI program at the time was the next evolution of the WSSD program, where we deployed our storage spaces direct ready nodes, which gave a little bit more value. And that was mostly around some of the validation of the Windows Server operating system on the hardware, but also some joined up support motion with Microsoft as well. So that's where we first brought in some joined up support so that we could do ticket exchange at the back end with Microsoft as well. So there's no finger pointing or passing between Dell and Microsoft, trying to make that as easy and seamless as possible there. We brought out our first open managed integration with Windows Admin Center to try and unify how some of the management is done for Azure Stack HCI. And then in 2020, Microsoft released the Azure Stack HCI operating system. And the whole point of the Azure Stack HCI operating system was to create a path for us to really develop a fully baked productized offering to deliver the capabilities that we'd been scaffolding around with Windows Server in the past. So to be able to say, here is a fully baked, realized, productized offering that you can buy, deploy, and then have supported for years to come, and be confident in its life cycle, its path, and its ability to deliver you an enterprise class platform there. That has also continued to evolve. We have launched the Premier Solutions just in the last couple of months or so. We've moved from 3 years ago having 2 offerings for Azure Stack HCI, validated nodes and integrated systems, to having a new category here now, the Premier Solutions category. And we've not just done this for the sake of it. We've not just said, hey, let's make a more expensive thing here and try and flog that. It's been specifically because we've grown our Azure Stack HCI customer base. And as you grow your customer base, you get a better view into where challenges are within the existing programs and within what they're doing just now. And from a view of those challenges, we see what we can build to solve for those challenges. That's why the Premier Solutions category exists here. And then Microsoft has created a very handy slide here, or a very handy solutions catalog here, where we can go to the Azure Stack HCI solutions catalog. It is aka.ms/Azure Stack HCI catalog. And within there, we can click into solution categories and see what the different features you get at a minimum with each of these solution categories is. So the validated nodes, for example, it's a very simple path for an OEM to enter the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem here. There is a one-time solution testing frequency requirement within this. So you test the Azure Stack HCI OS once and say, good to go. And then you go and deploy that, run it, and the hardware is supported for 5 years. So there is a level of validation there. There is some comfort there, and you do get 5 years of support, but it is a one-time operation. Within the integrated system program, we do solution testing 2 to 4 times a year. So it is an ongoing thing, but not continuous. And then we've had a couple of different ways of doing lifecycle management as well. So the lifecycle management within a validated node is a manual process, same as within Windows Server, by the way. So completely manual, separate software, separate firmware and drivers, and very much on the customer to scaffold out and work out how they're going to manage that lifecycle management approach there. Within the integrated systems, we've had a level of full stack update capability there, but it's been with a side load of drivers. It's been scripted rather than intent-driven automation there. And these are 2 of the things that we're, in the first instance, looking to solve here. So first of all, on the solution testing frequency side, we've completely changed how solution testing is done for Azure Stack HCI. Rather than Microsoft shipping us code, and then us taking time and space to integrate that and test and validate that, we've built a joint CI/CD pipeline, which includes our hardware. So that as Microsoft does their update validation, part of the update validation passes through the Dell APEX Cloud Platform hardware. And then by the time Microsoft releases an update, it's already fully tested and validated, and we support it effectively instantly. I say effectively because there's still time for updates to propagate. So we say within 4 hours of Microsoft releasing an update, we will support it. And that is in stark contrast to supporting within 30 days or 60 days or whatever, which is typical within the integrated system program. So pretty much instant support there. And that's not to say that customers are going to go and deploy an update the instant it's available, but what it does do is fit directly into a customer's lifecycle management process there. So if they have a patch window or a change window that they have scheduled 2 days from now, a week from now, they can take advantage of that, and they don't need to wait for the next one or one to change windows out. Just immediately when they're able to use a change window, they're able to apply those updates now, which is a big step forward there, especially when we're looking at products which are updating more regularly at this point. From a lifecycle management perspective, we've made some big steps forward in lifecycle management in 22H2. There's more to come in 23H2, which we'll talk about in a bit. But really what we've done is we've taken the Solution Builder extension, which was available in 22H2. Well, actually, it's not. If you look at the documentation for the Solution Builder extension in 22H2, it's still in preview for everyone except Dell. We've got an exception in there to allow us to use it in production. And we've taken that Solution Builder extension and we've built a whole bunch of robust automation around it, extending and enhancing how that works just now to build in pre-checks into how that lifecycle manager works, then to do a full stack update process there, and then to continuously validate that infrastructure after. So we have code baked into the platform, which is also continuously validating the update state to make sure we're not drifting out of compliance as well. So additional Dell value add built around the Microsoft capabilities within there, and we'll continue to extend and evolve that in 23H2 as well. And then there's a whole bunch of other tick boxes here that go down the different values here, and things like proactive call home support, global availability, white glove, and available as a service from a solution partner are all things which are required within Premier Solutions there as well. But actually, we go a bunch further from the Premier Solution capabilities as well. So these are the requirements within a Premier Solutions category here, but we've actually brought some additional capabilities to bear as well. So I mentioned the continuous validation of the lifecycle management state there as well. That is a Dell unique value add there as well. Monitoring for drift detection and alerting if you're moving away from what we call a known good state within there. We've built in capabilities to do automated cluster expansion, including pre-checks and end-to-end onboarding there as well. We have a Windows Admin Center extension today for doing security checking and security compliance checking within there as well. We have for the first time brought in the ability to do disaggregated storage within an Azure Stack HCI system. So not only have we evolved what an Azure Stack HCI system looks like into the Premier Solutions category, we've already evolved further beyond that as well. And every single one of these features is designed to do, well, two things. Number one is to address challenges our customers have had. So look at challenges people are really having as they deploy Azure Stack HCI and solving for those. And it's evolving the enterprise readiness of Azure Stack HCI as a product as well. The bigger a customer gets, the more they have challenges around some of these things, especially lifecycle management. You know, I was talking to a customer just yesterday who's going to be deploying several hundred Azure Stack HCI nodes, and they're currently running several hundred VMware-based nodes, and they have a very robust lifecycle management process built around that. Actually, let's just say it, they're using VxRail today, and VxRail is a product that Dell created specifically to solve lifecycle management challenges in the VMware ecosystem. And we've taken a lot of that knowledge and code actually into Azure Stack HCI to bring those same benefits into the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem now as well. And even though they have this incredibly robust and best-in-class lifecycle management capability in their existing platform, because of how often patches come out and how many nodes they have, they're on a continuous lifecycle management process. So the analogy I use is just an hour away from me, there is Edinburgh, and outside Edinburgh, there is the Forth Road Bridge, which is a beautiful bridge, which is bright red, and it's continuously being painted. So someone starts painting at one end, then they keep moving to the other end, painting it, and by the time they finish, it's already time to start painting the first end again. So it never ends. It's a continuous painting process of the Forth Road Bridge, and that's what this customer's environment is like as well. So even with the most robust lifecycle management process there, they're on a continuous process there, and what they can't do, and they were very clear about, is they can't regress to a point with Azure Stack HCI where they get to the end of patching and they're already behind with the first systems there. They need to be able to do this constantly, continuously, and as robustly as possible. So a lot of the lifecycle management scaffolding and automation we've built in there is specifically with larger customers like that in mind. And it's not just for customers with large data center clusters. This also applies to customers who are operating at the edge with lots of clusters in lots of locations, retail, for example. So this applies in large data center environments, in edge environments with lots of locations here. And these are really where we've seen, I don't like to say challenges because I love the Azure Stack HCI ecosystem here, but this is what we're solving for. We're solving for, as customers get bigger, how do we make their lives better? And the integrated system program has really shone, and it's really shone. We've delivered the best integrated system to date with our AX nodes. It's really shone in small scale cluster deployments, 1 cluster, 2 cluster, 3 clusters, things like that. It hasn't really been a challenge there. The deployment has been fine. The lifecycle management has been fine, but it's not had a completely rigorous process built around it to make sure that every deployment is identical and every lifecycle management process is identical. And that's what we're implementing with the new Premier Solutions category here. Make sure that not only is every deployment for a customer the same, but it's the same across every customer as well. And actually, if you look at that from a support perspective, that has immediate benefits across the entire customer base. Because if every deployment is the same, and every update is the same, and every customer is running in a similar state, then support immediately knows where a customer is when they call up. And that's tremendously powerful. It doesn't matter if you only have like 5 customers, but if you have 5,000 customers, and they're all calling in, and you know what state they're in, that's an incredibly powerful place to be. That's not possible with a Windows Server based solution, by the way. Every Windows Server based deployment is going to be different. And that is a challenge for support within Azure Stack HCI, and specifically the Premier Solutions category. We're making sure every deployment is the same to elevate the support experience and lifecycle experience there as well.
So we received one question. It has nothing to do with what you explained, but this is one of the questions we receive very often. And last week, there has been an announcement that Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI will be available with the next release of Azure Stack HCI, so 23H2. But the pricing is not communicated at the moment. So we know that you need a license to access the virtual machine. So for example, Microsoft 365, or it depends what type of solution you are providing through the Azure Virtual Desktop. But there is one fee to use Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI, and this fee is not public at the moment. So I think we have to wait some more weeks, but then hopefully it will be announced and general available done beginning of next year.
Yeah, if pricing is announced now, then there's no scope to change it before GA. So let's wait until closer to availability, and then the pricing will be announced at that point. How the pricing looks, I think, is already published in the Microsoft docs. So not what the value is, but a per vCPU cost is already published.
So the pricing is similar to the pricing of AVD on Azure. But there's one component to use it on Azure Virtual Desktop. So on Azure, of course, you pay for the virtual machine performance you're using, for the storage and compute. And if you're using your own hardware, of course, you do not have to pay these costs to Microsoft, but there's a fee to use it. And this has not been announced.
Exactly. But it is probably the feature people are most excited about with Azure Stack HCI. I mean, multiple times a day, every day, we're getting people asking about AVD within Azure Stack HCI. It is an incredibly hot topic. So looking forward to that in Q1 next year when 23H2 is made available.
Yeah, and a lot of people asking for AVD because they have been told that Microsoft 365 apps will no longer be supported on Windows Server next generations. But last week there has been the announcement that Microsoft 365 apps will be supported on Windows Server vNext and the coming version. So it looks like there is no need to go to Azure Virtual Desktop because RDS is not supporting M365 apps. But from the technical perspective, Azure Virtual Desktop with the unique Windows 11 multi-user functionality, this is something that's awesome. And it's running on premises with Azure HCI.
It's the exact same thing as we spoke about with Windows Server and Azure Stack HCI OS. It's about enabling customer choice. And Azure Stack HCI with AVD is going to give the best experience. And AVD is oh, I almost said a bad word, but I'm so excited about it. It's really awesome. It makes deploying a virtual desktop environment so easy, so straightforward, and lets you just get on with the day-to-day rather than worrying about managing the infrastructure of that there. Having the choice to still do a traditional RDS farm is great because, give people the choice, let them make up their own minds. If they want to put their time and energy into managing an RDS farm, great. The choice should be there. They shouldn't be forced down a specific path just because it is the best there, I would say. Cool.
Okay.
Let's get past that slide. Oh, look, we've got some hardware. It wouldn't be a Dell slide without, or a Dell presentation without having some pictures of servers, but it's useful to show, I think, because this also comes back to that standardization and consistency of what we're trying to deploy here. And if I wanted to go and deploy a Windows Server based solution, I can buy pretty much any hardware I want on the Windows Server catalog, on the SDDC catalog there, and just make sure it shows up in those catalogs, mix and match whatever I want, cobble together whatever solution I want, and then hope it works there, call up support and spend a long time trying to figure out why things aren't working. Absolutely possible, and it's a choice. Within Azure Stack HCI, we have a much smaller number of solutions there, but I would argue that these are like Lego building blocks. You can take some very simple blocks and build out complex solutions from them. So with the 1U systems here or 2U systems here, you have a broad number of different CPU, memory, storage, and GPU options within here to build out the configuration that you require. And you can build pretty much any configuration you require within that there. We put some boundaries within that as to what types of components you can use as well, because we want to make sure that they are supported way into the future. There are only a subset of Intel 4th generation CPUs that we make available here, for example, because there's an Intel Global Availability Program, which guarantees availability in the long term and supply chain availability for specific CPU models, but not for others. And so we make sure that the ones that we use are ones which are on that Intel Global Availability list there, to make sure that if you need to expand in 3 years or 5 years, that those CPUs will still exist. So it's not artificial constraints, it's intelligent constraints, understanding supply chains and understanding how we can support these things, which are why we have specific CPUs, specific disk configurations within there, specific manufacturer types, and specific GPU models there as well. It's all about supply chain availability and long-term support, not just getting something up and running on day one there as well. So that decision-making process all goes into how we design and manage an Azure Stack HCI system there as well. There is a unique feature within the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure that doesn't exist within any other Azure Stack HCI system. And this is something which we put in place at the point of deployment. So when you buy an Apex Cloud Platform from Microsoft Azure, it comes with Hyper-V, Storage Spaces Direct, Software-Defined Networking, the Azure Stack HCI OS pre-installed on the system there. So it all comes with that, all baselined, installed, ready to deploy and configure. But we also include something else on here, which is called the Cloud Platform Manager Virtual Machine. So we have a virtual machine image, which is on the boss card, so on the boot device on the nodes here, which is really where all of the Dell secret sauce runs within this system here. So when you go and boot up, when you purchase one of these systems, you install them, you rack them, you cable them, you turn on your nodes. When you turn on the first node, it's going to boot into a custom boot image there. So it doesn't boot into an Azure Stack HCI installation or configuration experience. It boots into a Dell configuration image there, which then takes you through the end-to-end deployment of that system inbox within the system, completely and fully automated, including using this Cloud Platform Manager VM to orchestrate and automate a whole bunch of that within there. What that really means is that we can guarantee that every deployment is the same every single time. There is no human capability to mess it up. Well, unless you mess up some of the prerequisites, but we do a lot of pre-checks around those as well, around your Active Directory, around your service principal creation, around DNS, NTP, all your networking. We use Network ATC to do the network configuration. This is a fully inbox deployment mechanism here. This was completely unique for 22H2. With the new Lifecycle Manager in 23H2, of course, we will evolve how we do this and build scaffolding around that new process as well. But this Cloud Platform Manager VM it contains 20 plus different microservices, which are monitoring, managing, and maintaining the overall infrastructure there in a way that doesn't exist within any other platform there as well. So we're doing constant scanning of the system to make sure there's no configuration drift. We're doing call home from this. We're doing our integration into Windows Admin Center and Azure Arc through this. And having a VM to do this is the best way to do this just now. Microsoft does the same with the resource bridge, by the way. So there is a VM that Microsoft puts in for resource bridge functionality and things like that. We're doing the exact same thing to bring our value into the platform as well within here. So a whole bunch of unique things that we can do within this platform, thanks to having that Cloud Platform Manager virtual machine there. Good question. At what frequency must an Apex cluster be updated every month? Or is the initial state also supported equivalent to the Azure Stack HCI OS release? So we maintain an N-2 cadence for patch and update there. Actually, let's go and have a look. I'll show you what the, oh, that's the wrong GitHub repo. I spent so much time in GitHub, especially in MS Lab there. So if we go to the Dell Azure Stack Solutions documentation here in GitHub, we have a section for Azure Stack HCI. We have a support matrix. This is for our in-market offering here, but this will evolve to show all those things for the Apex Cloud Platform as well. And what you'll see here is that there are two different support matrices here. One which is for our 2309 release, one for our 2307. And if we click into these, it's going to show you the supported versions of everything, every single component within here that you need to maintain this system. Now, the update of all of these is fully automated, but what this is showing you is what we currently support, and we support everything in here and everything within here. When we release our next support matrix, the older one will drop off. So if we look into 2307 just now, and I say, okay, well, I have a minimum BIOS supported version here of 1.10.2 within here just now, and I look into the 2309, that is now 1.11.2. So I know that when the next version or the next support matrix is released, I'm going to need to have upgraded from the previous version to 1.11.2 and to remain in support there at that point. But this is a multi-month process there. So you're going from 2307 to probably 2312 or so there at that point. So we're talking, 5 months, 6 months at some points for a lifecycle management update process from a Dell perspective there, I would say. How quickly can you upgrade? It's pretty much instantly. So within the Apex Cloud Platform Windows Admin Center extension today, later in Azure, once we start to bring out some of the new 23H2 features, you can apply updates pretty much instantaneously when is right for you. So you will need to within 6 months effectively, but you can do it anytime you want within that. And it's a fully automated single path solution for doing this with rigorous pre-checks, post-checks, rollback, and critically, every single one of these updates is fully tested end to end. And actually, let's skip forward to that now because it's a really important thing to understand how we think about lifecycle management within the Apex Cloud Platform for Azure system here. Because we're not just taking some updates and applying them and saying, great, you're good to go now. What we're doing is we're operating from what we term a known good state. And a known good state is basically a list of different versions of every single thing within the solution, which we and Microsoft together have automatically end-to-end tested to make sure if you're using this version of Azure Stack HCI OS and this version of the Cloud Platform Foundation software and this version of the SBE, this version of BIOS drivers firmware, everything within here, it says abridged because there's a huge list within here that goes into this. But what we're saying is if you use these specific versions within here, you're in a known good state. And a known good state is end-to-end. Should we ever use the word guaranteed in IT? Probably not, but let's say it. It's end-to-end guaranteed to give the best experience possible. It also gives a really good support experience because when you phone up support, they know that you're in a current known good state, and that really helps with troubleshooting, triage, and gets you to an end-to-end resolution much, much, much faster. It also means that if you want to do an update, you're going from a current known good state to a target known good state. And that target known good state, so going from all of these versions to all of these versions, is something that can be completely tested and validated beforehand. So we don't have to worry about customers having a lot of different versions of things and lots of different configurations because we operate in this known good state format here, we can have fully tested your system and how you do things before you apply the updates here as well. So going from one known good state to another known good state brings more comfort and assurance, rigor and consistency to how we apply patches to these systems as well. And again, if we go back to that fourth road bridge example, this is critical in making sure that customers with lots of clusters can do this rolling update process from cluster to cluster to cluster and know that it's going to be the same every single time and it's going to work the same every single time. And there won't be differences and nuances within each of their different clusters and systems. They're depending on how someone's deployed or configured or tweaked these systems within here as well. After we do the update, we have that Cloud Platform Manager virtual machine in there, which continues to do rigorous continuous validation of the platform. They're monitoring for drift detection. If you move out of a known good state, it will alert you and it will tell you you have moved out of compliance. You're able to. This isn't like Azure Stack Hub, which stops you making changes. If you wanted to log in and update the BIOS manually, you can do that. And maybe there's a very good reason to do that for a bug that has just come to being there and you want to apply it instantly. That's absolutely fine. But if you're going to apply an update and you are not in a known good state, if you have applied some things manually, it's going to tell you you need to get into a known good state before you can do the update, because that's how we guarantee consistency and how we guarantee you're going to have a good experience, which again is the whole point of Azure Stack HCI, is to make sure that you have a good experience and that you can focus high up the value chain. That's why it exists, not DIY, but a fully robust, orchestrated enterprise-grade platform for running Azure hybrid workloads there. That is the point of this platform here as well. We also support the application of emergency patches or hotfixes or 0 days instantly without impacting your known good state. So if Microsoft released an emergency patch tomorrow and you applied it instantly, that doesn't impact your known good state there as well. So you have full support of every release there without having to worry about impacting your known good state there as well, which is a nice place to be. Actually, the known good state mechanism, really every single Microsoft update is instantly supported within that. So every time Microsoft releases an update, it becomes part of a known good state. It's all the Dell things under the covers there which we do separately, which may be slightly different, and we automate and make sure stay the same within that as well. But huge amounts of engineering effort go into that. This is not a short-term thing. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of engineering people hours have gone into building these structures and frameworks to make sure that your lifecycle management capabilities are as seamless and straightforward as possible. It is not a small thing to do here. And if we roll back to how I started in this little sphere in our industry back when I was doing Storage Spaces 2012, I encountered a lot of challenges there, and in trying to do my own DIY thing in Windows Server 2016 and in Windows Server 2019. And actually, from my perspective, building these things to solve challenges I solved is a really rewarding thing as well. Really rewarding to say, if I had deployed this back then, I would have had a much better time ultimately there. I mean, everything in IT comes down to a choice between what cost versus effort versus appetite for risk, and whether you choose to do a Windows Server deployment, a validated node, an integrated system, a primary solution. The choice of which to do is a choice between, cost, capability, appetite for risk, and depending on where your organization sits on that spectrum will inform what you choose to do. If you are a consultant as well, maybe you choose to do something like a Windows Server or validated node type deployment, because that gives you a lot of guaranteed business going forward as well. And maybe that was cynical of me to say, sorry. If you're a service provider, then the Windows Server model is very attractive there, because you can still build on top of that historical SPLAS system there, which you couldn't do with Azure Stack HCI. So there are very valid reasons for that choice existing. What I'm saying is that Azure Stack HCI is designed to make things easy across the board there. That's the point. I want to touch on... Oh, sorry. Go.
To highlight that the collaboration between Dell and Microsoft is super close, because more often I got questions from customers asking me, is there any chance to get Azure Stack HCI certified hardware directly from Microsoft, so first party? And I say, why do you want to have this? And they say, the reason is because we want to have one stop when we have an issue. So we do not want to call Microsoft for the OS and maybe Dell for the hardware. We want one vendor strategy. And I say, we are not an expert on hardware, especially not on Windows Server hardware. This might be different on Surface, but not on Windows Server hardware. So I explain to these customers that the collaboration between the hardware vendor and Microsoft is so close and so strong that you can believe that when you buy the hardware from a partner, we work together like Dell, that you can rely on that whatever issue you have, and you have a service agreement with Dell, that your problem will be solved because Dell is collaborating with Microsoft. And whatever the issue is, if Dell can solve it by themselves, they will do. If they need support from Microsoft, it's not a question of raising a ticket and waiting 1 or 2 weeks to get a solution. It's coming immediately. This is what we have to tell our customers and partners.
Absolutely. Oh, you just made me think of a few different things there. So you're completely right. Support isn't the reason to go a single vendor there. We have an extremely robust joint support motion there, which is really good for our customers. Actually, just yesterday in the Azure Stack HCI Slack community, if you're not a member of this, we'll get a link for this as well. The Azure Stack HCI Slack is a fantastic place to talk to the broader community about Azure Stack HCI solutions. And I know this is quite small here, and I don't have Zoomit installed on this machine, so apologies for that. But in the general tab within here, yesterday, I saw someone asking specifically a question about support here. And clicking into that, there were answers within here which said that OEM support is something which enhances the support experience here because they can support the full stack hardware, networking, and Microsoft there. Yes, they said they use Dell, but this is the point of having the collaborative support here as well. But it's actually another piece on the support activities there is how Windows Server and Azure Stack HCI support differs as well. Because I mean, if anyone out there has used Windows Server support and the Azure Stack HCI support, I think you know that it's actually worlds apart. And the Azure Stack HCI
the phrase,
support,
the worst support in the world is better than Microsoft support.
I see. I don't necessarily agree with that. And those were quite strong words, but it is useful to think about the support experience for Windows Server versus Azure Stack HCI, because you are getting an Azure support experience for Azure Stack HCI, and it is cheaper as well than support for Windows Server. So there is another consideration there from a support perspective. There is a valid reason for customers to want single supplier and to buy hardware from Microsoft as well, and that's when their procurement mandates that they have a single supply chain or a single source for these solutions there. So there is a valid reason, and maybe we'll see that in the future, who knows, but it's not support. Support is not the valid reason for doing that. We find that the collaborative support gives a much better experience for customers. And actually, when we look at our support organization, we have a huge amount of data going back years now, from reference architectures on Windows Server through to Azure Stack HCI integrated systems, and we're gathering that for Premier Solutions now. And what we can see is that as we bring more value to these solutions, the average time to resolution of a ticket goes down significantly, and the number of tickets per customers goes down significantly as well. So we can tangibly show what the enhanced experience is for customers based on this huge amount of historical data from Windows Server reference architectures through to Azure Stack HCI integrated systems and beyond. And the whole point is that we make support tickets go down and resolution time go down as well there. And these do bear true within these solutions there as well. I wanted to touch on one of the things which is super interesting in Azure Stack HCI, which is storage performance and scale. Because as I said, have been deploying storage spaces solutions for almost a decade now, and huge fan of storage spaces solutions there, especially how storage spaces direct has evolved to be an incredibly high performance HCI system here there as well. And what I would say is that the majority of use cases we're seeing for Azure Stack HCI just now fit edge use cases, small clusters at the edge, maybe 2 nodes, 3 nodes in edge scenarios there across lots of different sites there. And Storage Spaces Direct is doing an incredible job within those environments there just now. We do know, though, that the scale of storage spaces direct is up to 16 nodes maximum. From a capacity perspective, that scales linearly. From a performance perspective, it scales linearly up to a point and then tails off. I think we know that, although I think that Eldon showed some great NVMe performance improvements within S2D for Windows Server 2025, which will come into Azure Stack HCI as well. So that continues to evolve and improve there. But for those small scale clusters, it's just fantastic. And nothing else like it actually on the market there. And also, well, I won't use the word free, but it's included in the cost of the solution as well. So what I would say is that where S2D meets the workload requirements, it is perfect and you shouldn't look anywhere else there as well. But there are boundaries to what it has been able to do up to this point. So for example, if you need to be able to scale beyond 16 nodes, and we have had customers that want literally hundreds of nodes of storage for Azure Stack HCI environments, and not just for one cluster, but shared across multiple clusters. We've had customers that have small compute requirements and very large storage requirements, sometimes petabyte scale storage requirements there as well. And these are things that Storage Spaces Direct is not able to do just now. And so we've worked very closely with Microsoft to bring something that Dell is very good at, which is storage, onto Azure Stack HCI to enhance that. And I was really excited at Ignite last week, spending a lot of time on the Azure Stack booth, talking with Azure Stack product group PMs within there. Lots of people very excited about this capability we're bringing to bear to extend Azure Stack HCI storage with Dell block storage to meet these things that S2D is not able to do and probably will never be able to do. So bring new scenarios to bear here. Large scale, share across multiple clusters, scale storage and compute independently. These are things we haven't been able to do and will be able to do. And, you know, just from the capability of sharing storage across multiple clusters here, which is a future capability, but is absolutely roadmapped. Imagine the migration capabilities that are enabled from that. So you have 5, 6 Azure Stack HCI clusters all talking to a single storage pool there. Then the ability to migrate between those clusters becomes a lot easier and more seamless there as well. And when we talk about adding on this Dell software defined storage here, it's not as something that you have to manage separately. We're building this into the full lifecycle management experience of the Azure Stack HCI system as well. So when I spoke about applying one known good state to another, the Dell software defined storage becomes part of that known good state as well. And initiating lifecycle management of the HCI system initiates it for the block storage as well. And it is all considered one part of an Azure Stack HCI system here. So very excited about this, being able to provide some of the capabilities we haven't been able to do before, not to replace S2D, because it's awesome, but to extend it and enhance it into places that it hasn't been able to go before. So very excited about that. We're launching this in Q1 next year for the first time.
Yeah, that's really great. So I know that a lot of customers asked for that in the past, and good to have it soon.
Yep, absolutely. And by the way, the scale of the Dell software defined storage here is effectively limitless. If you wanted 1,000 nodes of storage there, then that scales linearly in terms of capacity and performance all the way to like 1,000 nodes plus within there. So effectively no limit to how much storage we can deploy on site there, supporting both virtual machine and AKS workloads within that environment as well, which is pretty awesome. And from a management perspective, we build all this into the tools that Microsoft makes available. Today, that is Windows Admin Center. So in the 22H2 timeframe, that is building in our Apex Cloud Platform extension into Windows Admin Center. Because we have this Cloud Platform Manager virtual machine running in the infrastructure now, this is actually a really good experience within Windows Admin Center. I mean, I think everyone who's used WAC has had a little bit of annoyance, will we say, clicking between different bits and waiting for things to load. It's not the fastest experience in the world. Because we offload a lot of the processing to that Cloud Platform Manager VM, and this is just doing a display, actually clicking between these different tabs here is pretty much instantaneous. And so it's a really good experience within WAC here, just now going between your system physical view, which you can click into and see more of your physical infrastructure there, your compliance view, which tells you if you're in a known good state and how to remediate if you're not, alerting view, which gives you any alerts happening within the system here, another system physical view showing you all the different servers within your environment there, the lifecycle management tab there for applying updates, and that single click is such an overused term. I'm sorry, it's 4 clicks. You click 4 times to apply your patches, not once. So it's not single click, It's 4-click, but it is incredibly seamless and straightforward to do that. We have a security tab there, which is doing a whole bunch of monitoring of the security posture of the system there as well, to make sure that security baselines are applied and in place. Everything from typical BitLocker through to WDAC and everything in between, hundreds of security baselines there. We monitor to make sure they're maintained within that as well. And we also have all the support capabilities built into this extension as well. So if you want to configure call home, that's done in WAC. If you want to log a ticket, that's done in WAC. If you want to look at KB articles, that's all done in WAC just now. So we've fully integrated the support experience into here as well. Super easy to do. That is in the 22H2 timeframe, and still some 23H2 as well. Over time, we're going to see more things move into the Azure portal over time, and we're fully committed to moving this functionality into there as well. So all the things we've spoken about, including Dell external storage management, things like that, we're going to see in the Azure portal as well. So wherever Microsoft goes, Dell is committed to heading as well. And as new features and capabilities come out, you'll see us not just implement those, but build around them to enhance the experience that Microsoft is building as well. And that's what we're trying to do. Not just implement what Microsoft makes, but even make it better for our customers based on our experience there as well. That's all the slides I've got, but let's chat and let's see if anyone else has any questions within the community here, because I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, there's one more question.
Okay.
Be sure, 23H2 is GA on the Dell Apex MC nodes now.
23H2 is not GA on any nodes now. 23H2 is in public preview. That was just as of last week. Microsoft is targeting Q1 next year for 23H2 general availability. And as 23H2 becomes generally available, Dell will support that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no special date announced at the moment when it will be GA, but you can expect to have it early next calendar year. And as we mentioned before, then we will have AVD on Azure Stack HCI as well. So one more question here, or one more comment. Deliver Dell with the Premier solution already, the new solution builder extension. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So short answer is yes, we're using the solution builder extension, and that is helping to automate some of the lifecycle management and deployment process within our primary solution here. The SBE was in preview within 22H2, but Dell has an exception to make that generally available. So we are production supported for that. And that's what we've built into our primary solution there. And then as the solution builder extension and a supplemental package and lifecycle manager in 23H2 continue to evolve, we again continue to build into and support around that. So we already have production experience with the SBE, the only ones that do, and we continue to evolve that with 23H2 as well. Good question. Yes, we do support it.
Perfect. So questions I receive very often are, how can I test? Is there any test environment available to do it remotely? Is there any test environment available that I can have on my on-premises? I think the second part is more difficult to answer, but the first one should be simpler.
Sure. Let me bring my screen back up again, and we'll bring that back up. And if you want to share it, perfect. There we go. So a couple things. There are actually loads of ways to do this just now, so I'll go through a few of them here. So first of all, there is MS Lab, which Jaromir Kaspar and our team built when he was in Microsoft, and after moving across to Dell, he continues to grow and evolve this year as well. So MS Lab is a list of scenarios for automating the deployment of Azure Stack HCI and other Windows Server-based deployments, so you can test them in a nested virtualization environment on your own systems. The requirements are minimal. I think if you have a laptop with 8 cores and 100 gigs of SSD storage, that's probably enough to get going with an MS Lab scenario here. And I can click into, for example, the Azure Stack HCI deployment here, and it will take you through how to deploy this nested virtualization environment to get an Azure Stack HCI solution up and running here. It's largely just copy and pasting PowerShell to get that environment up and running there as well. For those who are not so good at just copying and pasting PowerShell, we've also built, or rather Jaromir has also built GitHub. Built another GitHub repository here. So within github.com/DellGeos, there is this Azure Stack Hands-on Labs, which is built on top of MS Lab, but really walks through in a much more structured way how to use it. So for example, if I wanted to look at deploying Azure Stack HCI 23H2 using the new cloud-based deployment there, it's not just copying and pasting PowerShell. It's also going to take you through every step with screenshots, walking you through the why and how of how to do these things within here. So this is a way to start testing Azure Stack HCI on your own systems. If you have a spare server with Hyper-V installed, great, go do that. If you have a laptop or a desktop machine with sufficient resources, great, go do that. There is also the Microsoft Hybrid Jumpstart, which is going to deploy, oh, that's a different Hybrid Jumpstart. What's it called? The Azure Stack HCI Jumpstart, HCI Jumpstart. So Jumpstart HCI box, that's what it's called. So Jumpstart HCI box is similar in its vision. That should get bigger, but hey ho. Into MS Lab, but while MS Lab is for deploying on your systems, the HCI box here is to deploy inside Azure. So if you have an Azure subscription and you have the ability to deploy a large virtual machine with nested virtualization enabled on that, then the HCI box is going to be able to deploy an Azure Stack HCI test system for you within there as well. So that'll get you up and running very quickly, although without necessarily understanding everything it's done. One of the great things about MS Lab and the Dell Geos Labs is that you can understand every single step within that as you deploy, and you're learning as you go. The HCI box is very good for deploying an end-to-end environment to then start using and testing, but without necessarily seeing how all the deployment works within there as well. And then finally, we have a whole bunch of YouTube videos which got launched by our technical marketing team here. So Mike Lamia from our tech marketing team has created a great list of different videos on what the Dell APEX Cloud Platform delivers here as well. So you can go through what the deployment and cluster creation experience looks like end to end, what maintaining a continuously validated state actually means and how that works, automated cluster expansion, and so on there. There are full end-to-end video guides on how and what these things look like and deliver as well. Is that every option? I think so.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunities to test Azure Stack HCI. The good thing is Azure Stack HCI is for free for the first 60 days. And if you test the next version, so the preview of Azure Stack HCI, it's for free forever. So you can test, you can do whatever you want to, you can become familiar with the product, and yeah. Hopefully you like it. If not, give us some feedback. If you like it, give us some feedback at the presentation. Great conversation. Looking forward to our next session. So whenever you are highlighting something, if you want, if you have something new to communicate, you're always a welcomed guest in the Azure Stack HCI Tech Talk. So I say thank you, Kenny, and thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to talk to the community. That's one of the things I love the most. And you're exactly right when you say that feedback is important. Feedback is what has driven all these different iterations of Azure Stack HCI and why we are moving how we move. It's also why Windows Server is receiving these features back in now, because of feedback. So keep the feedback coming, and we'll continue to collaboratively build these solutions for you as well.
Perfect. Goodbye. See you.
Bye.